Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really powerful combination, life writing and self-EMDR.
Yeah, and our guide for this is Deborah Cox.
Yeah.
We're, drawing from her book, The Art of Self-EMDR Writing.
Right. Our mission here is to explore how writing about your life, really thinking about it and writing it down, then weaving in these self-EMDR techniques, how that can be, well, a profound way to process difficult stuff, memories, experiences.
Exactly. We want to look at how this integrated approach offers maybe a different path to understanding, to transforming things. Even if you're already working with someone, this might offer another lens.
Yeah, a different angle. Now, we know you listening might have all sorts of backgrounds. Maybe you're a writer. Maybe you're just curious about processing trauma.
Or just understanding your own story better.
Exactly. So don't worry. We'll keep it clear, accessible. We're aiming for those aha moments, getting some real knowledge quickly but thoroughly. No getting lost in jargon.
Definitely. And it's really important to state this up front, just like Deborah Cox does in her work. While we're talking about self-EMDR techniques from her book, Traditional EMDR Therapy, that's usually done with a trained, licensed mental health professional.
Crucial distinction.
Absolutely. So what we're doing today, it's educational, it's informational based on these excerpts. It's definitely not a replacement for professional medical advice.
Right.
EMDR is a powerful tool, and it's really best used by qualified people. If you've got mental health concerns, please seek professional help first.
And we should also mention that disclaimer in the book, right? The author, the publisher, they're not responsible for any, adverse effects from using this information.
Correct. Safety first, always.
Okay, so let's dive in. We're starting with life writing. That's the foundation here. And like you said, it's not just about writing a bestseller.
No, not at all. Life writing, as Cox uses the term, it's much more inclusive. It's really any kind of writing where you're engaging with your own life.
So personal narratives, memoirs, sure, but also
diaries, letters you wrote or received, maybe even blog posts. Anything where you're putting your experience into words. The key is that intentional reflection through the act of writing.
And it's not just navel-gazing, is it? There's actual science behind the benefits.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. James Pennebaker's work is really foundational here. His studies showed pretty consistently that writing about emotional stuff can lead to actual measurable health improvements.
Like what kind of improvements?
Things like better immune function, lower blood pressure, fewer visits to the doctor, and psychological benefits too. Reduced anxiety, depression symptoms.
Wow.
But the really interesting part, I think, isn't just that writing helps, but how. It seems that actively reframing experiences, finding new perspectives through narrative, that's what makes the biggest difference.
So Pennebaker found that the people who got the most benefit were the ones whose writing showed they were starting to see things differently, gaining new insights.
Exactly. It wasn't just venting or recounting. It was sense-making. The process itself helps organize those messy, complex emotions. It helps create a coherent story.
Which is therapeutic in itself.
Right. And Cox brings in other voices too, like Louise DeSalvo.
Ah, writing is a way of healing.
Good book.
Yeah. DeSalvo really emphasizes connecting the emotional part with the factual part of tough events. She argues that writing specifically about trauma, not just general stuff, has the deepest healing potential.
She gives powerful examples, doesn't she? Like her own experience with her brother's suicide or Isabella Ende writing to cope with losing her daughter.
Right. It shows how writing can be this vital tool for integrating those really hard chapters into our life story.
And then there's Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way.
Cameron's focus is more on creative recovery, but her practices, like morning pages.
Those 3 pages, longhand stream of consciousness first thing in the morning.
Exactly. Think of it like a mental sweep, getting all the clutter out, the worries, the to-do lists, the anxiety, so you can access deeper stuff in your other writing. Clears the decks.
Yeah. And her other big thing is the artist date.
The weekly solo outing.
Right. Just for you. To nurture your creative side, replenish the well. Could be anything, a museum visit, a walk in the park.
Simple things.
Simple things. Cameron says morning pages clear out the gunk, and artist dates fill the pond back up with fresh inspiration. You need both.
I like that concept from Ruffel and Josselson, too, writing to know.
Oh, that's fascinating, isn't it? Josselson's point is that we don't just write down what we already know.
Meaning emerges through the writing.
Precisely. It's a discovery process. You find things out about yourself, about your experiences, as you write things you weren't conscious of before. It's active meaning-making.
So life writing isn't just documenting, it's shaping understanding, gaining ownership. Jocelson's point about author being an authority.
Yeah, remembering, literally putting the pieces back together through writing.
And Cox shares her own story about this in the introduction, doesn't she? Feeling stuck.
Yes. She couldn't articulate something difficult that had happened. So she set a timer, just a short one, for a writing exercise.
And the words just came?
Apparently, yeah. She started with the raw facts, she said, and then the deeper details, the meaning, it just sort of surfaced. And that was her light bulb moment about combining writing with self-EMDR.
Because she moved right from that writing into an EMDR technique.
Exactly. And she notes how the emotion moved through her, the feeling shifted, her self-perception changed without really trying to change it. It just happened.
Yeah.
That highlights the synergy we're exploring.
Okay, so life writing is our foundation. Let's get into the basics of self-EMDR. EMDR itself, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, developed by Francine Shapiro.
Right, late 80s.
Yeah.
It's become a pretty well-established method for trauma, PTSD. The core idea is that specific bilateral stimulation, like eye movements, can lessen the intensity of bad memories and feelings.
And self-EMDR is the adaptation for doing it on your own.
Essentially, yes. Now, its use outside formal therapy is, still discussed among professionals, but it can offer a way in for people who maybe can't access a therapist right away, or as a way to work on things at your own pace, maybe alongside therapy.
Yeah.
It uses the same basic tools.
So that core tool bilateral stimulation, BLS, what's happening there?
In the brain.
Well, the exact how is still research, but the idea is you're alternately stimulating both sides of the brain. Eye movements are classic moving eyes side to side while focusing on the memory.
Like REM sleep.
Kind of, yeah. It might mimic some aspects of REM sleep processing. The theory is this bilateral stimulation helps the two brain hemispheres communicate better, integrating the emotional and factual parts of memory.
And it's not just eye movements.
No, you can also use alternating tapping, like on your shoulders or knees. Or auditory BLS, sounds alternating between ears and headphones. They all seem to activate the brain's natural information processing system.
To help desensitize the emotion.
Yeah.
And reprocess the thoughts linked to it.
Exactly. It's based on desensitization, reducing the emotional sting and cognitive restructuring, rethinking the negative beliefs tied to the memory. And the potential benefits Cox mentions sound pretty good.
They do. Reducing anxiety, depression, stress, fostering empowerment, resilience, tapping into your own ability to heal.
And this is but safety is critical here. Preparation.
Absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
You need to feel grounded and stable before you start. Using grounding techniques, deep breathing, visualizing a safe place, and knowing your own limits. Being aware of your signs of overwhelm. How much can you handle on your own before you need support?
And Cox is clear. If it feels like too much, reach out to a licensed EMDR therapist.
Definitely. Knowing when to get professional help is key to doing this responsibly. Revisiting this stuff will bring up feelings. That's normal. The goal is to trust you can return to calm afterwards. Having support is crucial.
So the basic steps outlined in the book, what do they look like?
Okay, so typically you start by jotting down what's bothering you now. Then you dig a bit. What's the worst memory linked to this? What's the picture or maybe sound from the worst moment? What emotion are you feeling right now thinking about it? Where in your body do you feel it?
Lots of specifics.
Yes. And what's the negative belief about yourself that goes with it, like, I'm not good enough or I'm unsafe? Then rate your distress now on that memory. That's the SUD score, subjective units of distress, 0 to 10.
Okay.
And finally, what positive belief would you rather feel? Like, I am capable or I can handle this.
Okay, so you've gathered all those pieces. Then what?
Then you start the BLS eyes, tapping, whatever you choose. And as you do the BLS, you hold all those elements in mind. The picture, the emotion, the body sensation, the negative belief.
And you keep checking that SUD score.
Periodically, yeah. See if it's coming down. You also start bringing in that positive belief you want to strengthen.
How long do you keep going? When do you stop?
You continue the BLS until the distress level drops significantly and the positive belief feels, well, more true, more real.
And then grounding again afterwards.
Essential. Use those grounding techniques again. Cox emphasizes, look, if you're staying grounded and feeling safe, you're doing it right. Even small shifts mean processing is happening.
Right. This is where the synergy really clicks in. How writing and self-EMDR boost each other.
It's a feedback loop, isn't it? Writing helps you explore and articulate the feelings, the details.
Mm.
It becomes the material for the self-EMDR to process.
And the EMDR processing.
Can then reduce the emotional charge, which frees you up to write with maybe more clarity or deeper insight. It can unlock things for the writing.
So they feed each other. Processing fuels writing. Writing identifies targets for processing. And Cox gives specific steps for combining them.
She does. She suggests starting with list best scenes, worst scenes from your life, then pick a worst scene as a writing prompt.
And the writing focuses just on that scene.
Yeah, free write about it, get the sensory details down, sights, sounds, smells. What did it feel like? Also, notice the emotions coming up now as you write and where you feel them in your body. And crucially, identify the negative belief about yourself tied to that scene, those feelings, those sensations.
Then you rate the distress again, that SUD score.
Yep. After writing, check in. 0 to 10, how distressing is this memory now? And take a break if you need it, maybe even overnight. Let the writing settle before the EMDR part.
And that detailed writing becomes the focus for the self-EMDR.
Exactly. When you're ready for the self-EMDR, you have your writing there. You start your BLS, and you bring to mind the picture, the emotion, the body, sensation, the negative belief, all pulled from your writing.
While checking the SUD score throughout the BLS.
Right. And focusing on that preferred positive belief, too. Keep going with the BLS until the distress drops. And if you feel overwhelmed anytime, stop the BLS, use grounding techniques immediately. Get back to feeling present.
And you might need to cycle through this. Revisit the writing, do more self-EMDR.
Yes. Cox suggests checking back with the writing periodically. Has the SUD score related to that whole piece changed? You repeat the self-EMDR, focusing on the key elements until the SUD is down to 0 or 1.
So sustained relief on that specific memory.
That's the goal. And always follow up with something restful. Let your system integrate the changes.
Okay, so we've got the tools. Writing for exploring, EMDR for processing. How do we build a consistent writing habit and start shaping these stories?
Right, this is about making it sustainable. Cox draws on advice from lots of writers. A big one is creating a dedicated writing space.
Somewhere safe, private.
Yeah, somewhere you feel secure, won't be interrupted. Maybe have comforting things around a blanket, tea, whatever works for you. Make it inviting.
And consistency is key, right? Like with any habit.
Totally. A regular routine helps build momentum. Even short bursts are good. 15 minutes twice a day, maybe. Or a longer session weekly. Find what fits.
And the tools matter, like pen versus keyboard.
They can. Julia Cameron really pushes for longhand, especially for morning pages. She feels it connects you differently than typing. But ultimately, use what feels good to you.
And having things handy, notebooks, pens, inspiration files.
Minimizes friction. Keeps you in the flow. Cox mentions writers like Mary Karr, Annie Dillard, Toni Morrison. They all had different habits, but consistency was common. Find your rhythm.
Now, as we write about our lives, thinking about story structure can actually help, even though it's nonfiction.
Yeah, definitely. Elements like setting, theme, point of view, conflict, the basic building blocks of story, they give you a framework, help you shape the narrative, see the turning points, good for identifying where EMDR might be useful too.
Let's start with setting. In life writing, it's more than just the location, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's the physical place and the emotional landscape. Good settings feel alive, connected to the feelings. Cox suggests engaging all senses when you recall a place.
What did it smell like?
Sound like. Exactly. Connect the place to the emotion. Use concrete details. Think about how your perspective on the place changed over time. Maybe contrast past and present. She offers exercises like core memory mapping to help develop that.
And theme, the main message or idea.
Memoirs usually have several themes woven together. Love, loss, growth, survival, power, connection. Cox lists a bunch. The idea is to identify themes relevant to your story and explore how they show up. There's a theme development exercise for that.
Point of view for self-EMDR writing, first person, seems obvious.
It's usually the most direct way in, yes. But Cox also suggests playing with time shifting between your past self's voice and your present self's perspective.
Like commenting on the past from the present.
Exactly. It can bring new understanding. There's an exercise for practicing that shift.
And conflict. Every story needs it, even life stories.
Absolutely. Internal struggles, relationship issues, external challenges, conflict drives the story. Cox has a core conflict exercise using I want X, but Y sentences to pinpoint the central tension in a scene.
Then the story structure parts. Exposition the setup.
Yeah, introducing characters, setting the situation. Use sensory details to make it vivid. Cox has prompts for introducing characters and focusing on sensory details, even suggesting a pause for BLS after writing them.
then rising action building the tension.
Things start happening, challenges mount, decisions are made, leading towards,
The climax, the peak moment.
right, the point of highest tension or conflict. Cox offers an exercise focusing on sensory details, emotional digging, and shifting perspectives to really capture those key turning points.
After the climax comes falling action, the immediate aftermath.
Yep, dealing with the consequences. An exercise using an emotionally significant object helps explore this phase.
And finally, resolution. But in life writing, it's not always neat and tidy.
Definitely not. It's more about reaching a deeper understanding, maybe finding some peace, authentic closure, not necessarily answering every question. Cox has exercises like unvarnished truth and lingering questions to explore that, followed by a self-EMDR prompt for integration.
Okay, so delving into our stories often brings up early relationship stuff. Attachment. That seems like a really potent area for this combination of writing and self-EMDR.
Hugely potent. Attachment experiences, those early bonds, shape so much. Cox makes a useful distinction between type I experiences specific remembered events and type 2.
Type 2 being more implicit, like underlying feelings or beliefs from attachment patterns, maybe without a single clear memory.
Exactly. Like pervasive feelings of not being good enough or insecurity in relationships. Statements like, I learned my needs don't matter, might signal that. Writing about these can help you understand your attachment style, patterns in friendships, romantic
It
relationships.
lets you see your own story more clearly. Challenge negative messages you internalized.
Precisely. It's a way to witness yourself, maybe understand your parents or caregivers with more complexity, their own histories, without excusing harm. And seeing patterns across different scenes in your writing, that reveals recurring dynamics.
And maybe lets you make different choices now.
That's the hope. The attachment writing exercise guides you through exploring these themes.
And as we weave these scenes together, making the story flow becomes important, creating connections.
Yes, narrative flow, making it coherent. Cox offers connecting exercises. One is mapping your timeline, pick key memories, then write about the connections between them. Another is creating transitions, specifically writing paragraphs to bridge memories. You can use sensory details that link them, or recurring themes, or even follow an object through time, or just reflect on the connection. There's also a self-EMDR prompt for processing those transitions you write.
So it's about seeing the links, not just the dots, actively shaping how you understand the journey.
Exactly. Creating a more integrated narrative of your life.
Now, dealing with difficult material, it requires balancing that exposure with feeling safe and empowered, right?
Yeah.
You need to feel secure enough to even go there.
That's absolutely critical. Vulnerability and empowerment often go hand in hand in memoir, much like exposure and integration in EMDR. Sometimes the most vulnerable places hold unexpected strength.
And Cox gives tools for managing that.
Yes, really helpful ones. The container exercise, mentally creating a safe place to put upsetting material aside temporarily. The dual awareness writing about the past while staying aware of the present moment.
Keeping one foot in the now.
Right. Also, the resource installation writing about positive times you felt safe or strong to build internal anchors. And the pendulum exercise, gently shifting in your writing between difficult memories and those positive resources.
What about when you hit a wall? Emotional blocks in writing. Can't get words out, or it feels fake.
Yeah, that happens. It might show up as physical tension, procrastination, staring at the page, or the writing just feels flat. Cox suggests tuning into your body. Where do you feel tense when trying to write? What memories might be stored there?
Interesting. And writing groups can help here.
They can be invaluable. Getting feedback can help you spot unprocessed emotions that might be blocking you. Cox uses this metaphor of a sunken chest in a murky pond, buried feelings clouding the writing.
So others can see patterns you might miss.
Yeah. Writer friends can offer fresh eyes on emotional patterns, notice avoidance, see shifts in your style that signal something's up, hold space, even discuss shared blocks. Cox even suggests group EMDR exercises for mutual resourcing and processing, using written notes and tapping together.
Finally, and this feels so crucial, Cox really emphasizes taking care of yourself through this process, taking care of your writer self.
It's non-negotiable, really. This kind of deep personal work demands robust self-care. It supports the writing and your well-being.
She mentions the potential for feeling down during intense writing.
Yes, sadness or even mild depression can happen. So actively building and nurturing activities, seeking simple joys daily is really important. She includes that list from 14,000 things to be happy about, a great reminder of small pleasures.
And she brings back Julia Cameron's core practices, morning pages, artist dates,
as pillars of self-care for writers. Plus, she offers specific affirmations for self-EMDR resourcing using BLS to strengthen positive feelings and thoughts.
What about managing emotional overwhelm when it does happen during writing?
Recognizing the signs of SANES. First, intense emotions, body tension, feeling distracted, tired. Then, strategies. Write in smaller chunks. Take more breaks. Lean on your support system. Maybe pause the writing entirely for a bit.
And consider therapy.
Absolutely. Especially with a therapist experienced in trauma. Cox encourages finding an EMDR therapist, saying, look, everyone has life experiences that could benefit from processing.
She ends with final notes on safety too, right? Staying aware of your patterns, having a plan for overwhelm.
Yeah, that moment-by-moment awareness, having response plans ready, it's all about navigating this safely and sustainably.
So putting it all together, this combination life writing, guided by these principles, integrated with self-EMDR, it really does seem like a powerful, accessible way to work with our own stories.
It offers a pathway, as Cox presents it, to explore, process, and integrate our experiences, to foster deeper understanding and ultimately healing.
Well, this deep dive, drawing from Deborah Cox's The Art of Self-EMDR Writing, hopefully gives you listening some really valuable tools and insights, a way to start or go deeper on your own journey of self-discovery through this approach.
And we really encourage you to experiment, but gently. Be kind to yourself. Self-compassion is key. Go at your own pace, whatever feels right and safe for you.
And just to reiterate that vital point, while self-EMDR can be incredibly useful, professional support from a trained therapist is so important, especially for complex trauma or if things feel overwhelming. Please prioritize your safety and well-being.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Think about how intentionally weaving your life story while also paying close attention to your body's responses, your emotions, using these gentle self-EMDR techniques. How might that lead to a richer understanding of yourself, a greater sense of agency in your own narrative? What new connections, what insights might emerge when you become both the writer and the compassionate witness of your own unique life?